Hello everyone, my name is Corinne Jean-Pierre and I am the Senior Advisor and National Spokesperson for MoveOn.org. Thank you Act Local for this opportunity to speak to all of you today. A special thank you to all the local leaders for the work you are doing in your communities. In this current political climate, building on your accomplishments, continuing the work, and focusing on local power is the best way for us to resist. Allow me to get personal for a minute and share with you my story on how I got here today. When I was just a kid, my family immigrated to the United States, leaving behind Haiti, an impoverished country that provided little to no hope for upward mobility. My parents moved to the United States for the American dream so that we could have a better chance. They, like many immigrants today, saw America as the land of opportunity and knew that working hard would ensure we had a better future. And for the most part, that's what happened. My mom, who didn't get to finish grade school, was able to get a job as a home health care aide, and my dad started driving a cab. And though they worked long hours, had low wages, and often lived paycheck to paycheck, they were able to provide a safe home, enough food, and a good education for their 3 children. My family's history, not an uncommon one here in the United States, this story, my story, is the foundation from which my passion for politics and public service was built. When I was in my 2nd year of graduate school, working to obtain my master's, I happened to be simultaneously enrolled in a workshop that focused on Haitian universities and a journalism class in documentary filmmaking, respectively. Through my workshop, I was given the incredible opportunity to travel to Haiti, and so I went to Haiti for the first time in my life, camera in hand, to experience the country that is so deeply ingrained in my history and identity. My experience in Haiti was powerful and striking. I saw Haiti at its best and at its worst. Its amazing mountain ranges and its crumbling, violence-ridden ghettos. The more I saw, the more I felt pushed and empowered to create change. When I brought my newfound knowledge and passion to my mentors, I was told that if I wanted to really make a difference, to create change, I should consider getting involved in politics, become a public servant. Right now, the stakes are really high. The American dream that my family worked so hard to achieve is in jeopardy. What we are fighting for is not just about my family, it's about all of our families. My vision for this country is one where our diversity makes us stronger, and including, not excluding, the largest amount of people cements our success. Where the child of an undereducated working class immigrant can graduate from an Ivy League college and go on to work for the President of the United States. I've been blessed in my life to be able to fight alongside President Barack Obama. So I've seen firsthand what can happen when you work for a leader who doesn't listen to people who say, it can't be done, but who instead works to bring people together to take on the toughest of fights. So I stand with all of you here today. I stand with you for our shared values to ensure that we can make our communities, this country, a place where no matter where you came from or who you are, if you work hard, you have the opportunity to build a decent life for yourself and an even better life for your children. Thank you again for all the work that you do every day in your communities and for our country.
Hello, ACT Local leaders. I'm Ben Wickler, the Washington Director of MoveOn.org, and I'm honored to join you through this video, which is almost like being there with you. And most importantly, I'm excited that you are gathering to do what you're doing. At the beginning of this year, everyone thought that it was impossible to defeat the repeal of the Affordable Care Act. I remember talking to a senior aide on Capitol Hill who told me that there was a 100% chance that the ACA would be repealed. But then we rose up all across the country, in communities everywhere. We went to town hall meetings, we held protests at congressional offices, we did everything we could in our power, and against all odds, we won. Now that would have seemed totally impossible if I hadn't seen things like that happen before. The first organizing campaign I got involved with in Madison, Wisconsin, where I grew up, was a campaign to try to get our school board to stop making deals with soda companies like Coca-Cola to sell their products to students in schools. They were giving out coupons for Coke to students who did well in class. We thought that was not a good use of students' time or a good thing to have in a public school system. So I organized with other students. We went to school board meetings. We wrote letters in our student newspapers. We organized and we won. Madison became the first school district to end its contract with Coca-Cola. Then we organized and got a student on the school board. Then we organized around the state and got an increase of $20 million in school funding. It was just a bunch of high school students who didn't have any resources except their own grit and time and willingness to fight. That's what made me a believer in local organizing and ultimately in local organizing for national impact. So now here we are. We've won for now on healthcare, and now we have a lot to do. We've got to stop this tax bill that would be a disaster for the middle class, for people aspiring to join the middle class, really for everyone except the ultra-rich and giant corporations. We've got to stop this tax bill, and then we've got to keep fighting to stop the rest of their horrible legislative agenda and then to win power. And not just taking back the House, which is crucially important, but also state houses, governorships, school boards, city councils. Every seat at every level needs to be contested. And that's why I am so strongly, hugely excited about the work of local organizations across this country. This is a moment when we don't have a national nominee to carry the torch for all of us. We have to be the heroes. Regular citizens are the lifeblood of the progressive movement, have always been and always will be. This is a moment when we need to take it on our own shoulders. So I'm thrilled about what you're doing. I'm thrilled that people are taking to heart the old Margaret Mead quote that you can never doubt the power of a small group of thoughtful and committed individuals to change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. And I'm also excited that now, in the 21st century, we can update that quote to say that you should never doubt the power of thousands of small groups of thoughtful, committed individuals to change the world together. Because that's what it takes to build a movement. And that's what we've got. Thanks for being part of this fight. Have a great time at this conference, and I'll see you on the front lines.
So you know how when you're watching a baseball game and like your team is down by 4 runs and there's only 2 people on base, so the most they could do with one swing is a 3-run home run. They couldn't even tie the game, and you're super frustrated because you feel like the person at the plate is like swinging for the fences trying to tie the game when it's not possible. That's how a lot of us feel right now about what's going on in the country. You know, people come up to me all the time and they're like, how do I fix this? And they just pick something that is a national problem. And I always say, well, you got to get on base first. You got to focus on acting locally. That's why what Act Local is doing is so important, because it can make a real difference. I'm Jason Kander. I'm the former Secretary of State of Missouri. I'm the president now of Let America Vote. When I started in politics, I was a member of the state legislature in Missouri. And the first time that I ran for office was for state representative. And when I was running, I remember that I could knock on a door and I kind of had a rule for myself that I believed that within a few questions of a conversation with a voter, I could figure out a person that we knew in common, a mutual friend. And if I couldn't do that, I knew that I was probably going to be able to come up with some shared experience that we have in the community. Maybe we went to the same movie theater. Maybe we had a friend who went to the same school, something like that. And that, once that had happened, really just massively increased my ability to sort of get through to folks on the issues. Because once you establish that credibility with someone, well, they feel a little closer to you and they're more interested in what you have to say. That right there is why Act Local is so important. So, you know, while you're frustrated and you want to deal with huge national problems, you got to start by dealing with them at the local level. That's what Act Local is doing. When you get out into your community and you're talking to people on their doorstep, when you're asking them to sign a petition as they walk into their grocery store, when you are calling them up on the phone, you're also having conversations with them that establish that credibility and you figure out what you have in common. And the biggest thing is you live near each other. And then once they know that, your passion is very persuasive. So I really appreciate what you're doing. I think what Act Local is doing is incredibly important. So thank you.
Hi, everybody. This is Mickey Scott Bay Jones, the Justice Doula, here to say congratulations on all your hard work and thank you. Thank you for all the work you've been doing across the country to make positive, constructive, systematic, and individual change all across our nation. So I just want to say 2 things. Actually, I want to ask 2 things of you today. I want to ask, 1, that you remember my son, Paul. My son, Paul, is 11 years old, and he is a class representative in his 5th grade class. Now, the cool thing is that Paul didn't get elected the first year that he ran for class rep. And then again this year, he decided to run. And you know what? He got it. And he is inspired. First of all, he was inspired by President Barack Obama, of course, as a little boy, but he is inspired by people like you. People like you that are getting the vote out in grassroots communities, people like you that are working with little money, with little time, and that are putting in everything you can everything that you have to change your communities, to make a future for little boys like Paul, my son, who are already civically engaged in their classrooms and that are going to grow up to be our future mayors and city council members and maybe one day president. So I want to ask you to think about Paul as you continue your work on the days when it's hard. Think about little boys like that are going to need your help and the help of people that come behind you to make a difference in our nation. Second thing, I want to ask that you take care of yourself. As the Justice Doula, what I do is I help people birth new love, justice, and shalom into the world, right? And so to do that, you got to take care of yourself, right? So I want to ask you that you take care of yourself and your communities, that we practice communal self-care, right? And that we allow each other to pull back and to step up and to support each other. So I just want to ask that you think about those two things as you continue your work, that we celebrate together how far we've come and what we've accomplished, that we take time to really appreciate these new connections that we're making in these Act Local events, and use those connections to continue to nurture and encourage each other. So great job, everybody. Thank you for the work you're doing. Keep up the good work. Keep nurturing each other and keep making change in your communities.
Hi, my name is Ensei Ufat. I'm the Executive Director of the New Georgia Project. We are a nonpartisan civic engagement organization committed to registering, engaging, and mobilizing Georgia's new American majority. To date, we've registered over 225,000 young people and people of color, and with a goal of registering 1 million by the end of the decade. And we are terribly excited to be here with you, in community with you at Act Local. A lot of times lip service is given to the importance of local elections, but you all are believers and so are we. And so I'm happy to have found our people. And I want to thank you. I want to thank you for everything that you have done. I want to thank you for everything that you will do. I want to thank you for not ignoring oppression and racism and sexism and homophobia and greed when you see it. I want to thank you for using your time and your talent and your treasure in the ways that you can to try to eliminate or alleviate suffering and bring about a Georgia and bring about a country that we can all be proud of and that we all want to live in. I'm excited about Georgia's future from the 1920s to the 1970s. Lots of people of color, particularly Black Americans, fled the American South, fleeing racialized oppression, but also in search of economic opportunities. And now many of those folks are moving back to the South, or their children are moving back to the South. And so it has created an opportunity, moment for us to get organized, to elect officials that know what our priorities are and who are responsive to the priorities that have been articulated by our communities, and people who are sort of responsive to the needs of all Georgians, not just the wealthy elite, and not just a few. I'm excited to fight for a sort of justice-centered agenda, a human rights-centered agenda in the Deep South. I'm excited to bury Jim Crow once and for all and smash stereotypes about progressives, what the viability of a progressive agenda in the American South. And I'm excited to do that with you all. And so I look forward to building onward and upward. Take care.